Welcome, Goran, to the Query Colibri.
Hey, Pablo, very nice to meet you. Thank you so much for having me. I spent last couple of days listening to a lot of interviews that you have done over the last few months, and I think the work that you're doing is fantastic. There's a huge community online on YouTube in specific that are big fans of guitar, and it's always very useful to get inside of somebody's head who is doing something important, doing something good. It's especially good for amateurs and professionals just to see how other people prepare things. Mm-hmm. So, I want to congratulate you on the great program that you have, and thank you again for having me.
Thank you to you, Goran. Tell us, how did you start in the world of music? And who has inspired your journey in the guitar, please?
Thank you for that question. I started as a young kid back in Croatia. I was born in Osijek in Croatia in 1977. When I was about 6-7 years old, my parents took me to a music school. One day I went to my friend's house who was maybe a year older than me, and he's been taking guitar lessons for about a year or two. And we were just kids playing, and I saw the guitar and I took it and I was making some noise, and my friend said, "This is how you create melodies. This is what the right hand does. This is what the left hand does." Uh-huh. And, if you go left, right, it changes the pitches and you can create melodies. So I thought this was better than, more fun than the video games that we were playing. So I went home and I played, I want to say it's a famous Peruvian song that for some reason was popular in former Yugoslavia. So I can't remember.
The Andes music, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so back in those times in Yugoslavia, we had very friendly relationship with Latin America. So you could hear a lot of tango, you could hear a lot of mariachi, you could hear a lot of Peruvian, Chilean folk. So very friendly and very sort of unique time in the history. Where, geographically we were not close, but the government kind of was encouraging us to like the Latino culture and Latino music and Latino movies as we naturally did. So long story short, I went to music school right after that lesson because my parents were like, okay, we need to get some structure here. Why don't we enroll you with a program that you go a couple times a week? So I started, I was about 6 years old. I started out on a classical guitar. At the same time, I was doing solfege, music theory, and we also had a choir. And later on, I was doing chamber music. So this was the beginnings, maybe first couple years of my studies on the guitar. When I was about, this is years later, maybe 3-4 years later, older I got, more interested I got in playing guitar, and more I was practicing, I was just generally getting more into it. I had a very good teacher in Osijek in Croatia who took me to guitar competitions, master classes. So at very early age, I got introduced to different professors, different teachers that helped me get better, and I was able to get pretty good at very young age. So Yugoslavia being very sort of encouraging of young talent and classical music, we all had to go to competitions, which I did. When I turned about 13, this is where things changed big for me and for my family. As you probably know, in the early 90s, Yugoslavia suffered a civil war. So for me, as a son of a Serbian father and a Croatian mother, we could not stay in Croatia, or we were not really that interested in moving into a different part of Yugoslavia, because that's where I grew up. That's what I knew. So when the war started, there was all this nationalistic tension, and we moved to Austria. We moved to Salzburg, where I was accepted at the Mozarteum Salzburg, which is a university, at age 13. And my first teacher was Joaquin Clerc, and later on I studied with Elliot Fisk, and I stayed in Salzburg all the way until 98, and this is where I moved to United States. Along the lines, a lot of teachers, like a typical student of guitar, going to competitions, doing master classes, playing for my professors, trying to soak in the most that I could, most knowledge that I could. Looking back now, I think I was too young to be at the university. At age 13, I could not, I wasn't able to soak in a lot of information that was available to me, just because the program was structured in such ways that, normally you go to college at age 19, 20, 21. I skipped high school and I went to university very young. Nevertheless, I had a fantastic experience with both teachers, Elliot and Joaquin. Even though they, I really liked them as people and players, I think they were doing a better job with older kids, and they kind of didn't know what to do with me because I was young and I needed a lot of attention. So they kind of treated me like I'm 22 years old, even when I was 13, 14 years old. When you're so young, you need structure. You need somebody who's going to really pay attention of your curriculum from simple studies to your bigger pieces. What is this kid doing in terms of other subjects in the school? I teach now and I pay attention to every student. I know exactly what they are doing in theory, in chamber music, and I'm involved around them in not only as a guitar teacher, but I take care of their musical, the whole musical education, from technique, chords, ear training, sight reading, understanding how to play with other people, understanding how to adapt in situations where you may be playing with somebody who is at your level, but you also may be playing with somebody who is a little bit under your level or above, and just how to be able to adapt to a certain situation. When I moved to the States, this is where things again shifted for me a little bit. I always loved classical guitar, and I loved the history, the interesting history of the guitar being first and foremost folkloric instrument, and then it be through the travels of the whole traveling from Iran and in Iraq through the Eastern Europe, and guitar ends up being sometime in the Spain, still in the shape and the form of Arabic lute, right? Over the centuries, it has become more of a European classical instrument. But to be fair, guitar has such a rich, unique culture that comes from basically a folkloric instrument.
Yes.
This is where I start to put things together, and I start to compose, I start to arrange, and I start to branch outside of strict European classical guitar. So the first thing that you kind of do when you start to venture out of your what is you look in your background. So my background was music from the Balkans. So this is where I started arranging some folkloric dances from the Balkans, and just in general study folklore music in the Balkans, which is very interesting. Around the world we have a lot of different cultures where the rhythm is not 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. In the Balkans, we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Or we have 7, 8, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1. Or we have 11, 8, which would be, let's say, 4 plus 3 plus 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So studying all these different unusual rhythms for the Western Hemisphere, I feel has only helped me open up as a musician, in general, but more so, through the whole experience of studying different styles of music has really opened up my classical guitar playing big time. I think at some point, when I created a lot of history with arranging folk songs from the Balkans, playing it with other people who are not coming from who are not necessarily coming from a classical background, but maybe from improvisational background, people who have studied jazz, Latin music, who don't necessarily come from the classical background. So I felt, whenever I was thrown in a situation where I have to adapt and I see where they're coming from, I felt that was a great learning experience. So many situations where I would meet somebody and we would like each other's style of music. How do we communicate? How do I learn what you're good at, and how do I teach you what I know about my music and something in specific that I was working on. One example was years ago I met this beautiful musician from Brazil who was playing authentic Brazilian choro. And of course, as a classical player, we only know Villa-Lobos Choro #1, and that's our only introduction to choro music. So this wonderful musician, his name is Renato Anesi, he told me, "Oh, Goran, there is a lot of different choros, a lot of different feels, a lot of, choro is not only happy. You have choro in a minor key and a major key. You have it slow and a fast, and you have everything in between." So I think moving to the States was really a blessing to me, because I could keep playing classical guitar, but at the same time, I also felt I need to improvise in order to be able to play with other people, and I need to write my own music. And so at some point in my early 20s, I was starting to write music the best I could. And this is what I always say to people. A lot of times people come up to me and they want to get better in writing their own stuff, and I just say, keep going, just one piece after another piece. Maybe a year after creating this many pieces, you will be able to see it from the outside and say, well, I need to work on this, and that. What's very common is, and I did that as well. I remember first few of the pieces that I've written sounded like barrios, like let's say a poor version of barrios music. This is what people do, barrios, our treasure, the best composer for romantic guitar, and it's still not that far detached from our time, so we can still kind of relate to that era. So of course, I wanted to write music that would, be melodic and have some nice harmonies, and of course everything sounded like barrios. Nice. Let's say maybe a couple of years later, everything started to sound like Leo Brouwer, because I was trying to sound more modern and maybe using a lot of his textures, how modern music is being played and how people write. I have to say that was a great learning curve, how to write in style of this or that, or this or that, how to arrange certain kind of music that, you still want to have the melody and the rhythm and the basic harmony. So, that the music still sounds like it's authentic folk music, but how do you find a balance between keeping it authentic, traditional, but adding modern harmonies and maybe expanding on using modern rhythmic textures. Having all that said, I felt like that was a good school of how to write, how to learn about yourself, how to over time get an idea what direction might be the best one for you. So it's been a long time since I started writing music in my early 20s. I'm almost 50 years old now, and there is a lot of material that I've created, plenty of recordings. I kind of took, I really enjoyed collaboration, and I've built my career based on exploration, and I was never really afraid of joining something that was unusual, strange, not familiar, and exploring, different kinds of music that you can create with, friends and different people. So having all that said, so many years in making and so many years in writing for solo guitar, for two guitars, for an ensemble, string quartet guitar, playing with drums, bass, guitar. I feel I've had a very, very sort of fruitful collaboration with with people and friends, and this is where most learning for me came as a musician. Of course, we want to give credit to our teachers. There is this culture in classical guitar that, we bow our heads, our teachers were the best. In my case, no. Yeah, of course, they taught me how to play guitar a little bit. But I always give the best credit to the people that I have played with. As a young player in my early 20s, I had to start playing with singers, classical singers, and I've never done it before. And then you're like, how do we stay together? How do we keep the pulse together? Not everybody has the same kind of pulse. Mm-hmm. Not everybody has the same kind of idea how the music should be done. Mm-hmm. So adapting was something that really, made me stop and go like, okay, let me listen to this person. Let me see how they make music happen, and how I can create a supporting role, so that at the end we have that we are in perfect sync, and we it sounds like one person or two people kind of playing off each other, right? Yeah. A lot of people, like my teacher Elliot Fisk, he in every lesson was mentioning Segovia, which is great, fantastic, and I love Segovia's playing, but I think it's time for the next generation to stop glorifying people from the past. I think it's fine, but today, I would rather compliment somebody who's maybe my age or a little bit older, still alive, still doing things. In terms of who were some of the biggest influences for me, that don't necessarily have, quite a classical style of music, but nevertheless come from that position in some way, would be Egberto Gismonti, Ralph Towner, of course, various flamenco players and various people from the Balkans playing, specializing in the Balkan styles. But I think in terms of guitar and in terms of seeing that, classical guitar doesn't have to be just this one thing. It can be all these other different things that over time, you start realizing, well, composer like Egberto Gismonti, he used a lot of his compositions are based in traditional Brazilian rhythms and different music, whether it's Brazilian music from the jungle or the city. He was always very clever how to combine, folkloric and the modern. What is modern in the 70s, what is modern in the 80s, without sounding like he's trying too much. Like, a lot of his music, I feel, sounds very authentic, and he's always done such a justice to combining things without sounding too messy.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So yeah, and of course, today, when I remember when I started writing, almost 30 years ago, my colleagues and people were saying like, why why are you doing this? We have so much great repertoire, and I was like, well, it's a different creative process that's at this point, like so much fun for me. If you ask me like, what are you working on right now? I'm going to tell you, well, I'm working on bunch of different pieces that are not done yet. And of course, I compose on the guitar, but not every piece comes from just sitting down and composing on the guitar. It can be a groove that I'm working on. It can be, the song starts from a percussive element, or it can come from, playing something on the piano or the bass, singing, and so the guitar has always been that tool, with whether I'm, depending on what kind of style, the piece that I'm writing, I'm going to look very careful and see in my toolbox what kind of things can I do to make this sound more authentic.
Okay, very, very interesting, Goran. No, very interesting also.
Very, very long, but
no, it's good. And now invite you to discover some of the techniques and style you use to enhance your guitar playing, please.
Of course, yeah, that's a very good question. A lot of times, if I'm working on a piece of music that is a more rhythmical driven piece, I want to exercise different combination of odd time meters. So, for example, if I'm playing a song that's in 5/8 time, 1 2 3 1 2. And then trying to see what other ways of accompanying in the same structure I can do to create more interesting context for accompaniment. So 1 2 3 4 5, 1 2 3 4 5. So that would be 5/8. The next one, we spoke about 7/8. So that would be 4 plus 3. 1 2 3 4 1 2 3. So those I think as technical exercises, the technique for me practicing is not, I know I can do that. So I always, if I'm practicing something that has a specific rhythmical challenge, I'm going to work on a lot of different ways to accompany in that specific meter. And that's going to be my technique for the day. I already know how to play scales, so why do I have to do scales? I can work on accompaniment, or I can work on something that's a little more soloistic. So in terms of improving my soloing, I'm going to improvise and maybe set some set of rules so that I can when this comes up in a live setting, I can do a good job. For example, to kind of get my hands moving. Once I'm feeling warmed up, maybe I'll I'll work on some new music and see what kind of maybe there is a piece that requires something that maybe has strumming involved, something that's outside of the box a little bit. A lot of different things. I like to work on exploring different chords, different harmonies. How do things fit in? Maybe part of the song that is missing. What kind of texture can I create to? So I'm never thinking on. These are sort of the rules that I have set for myself. I never write in terms of, everybody's going to love this piece and it's going to be so important and it's going to win all these competitions and everybody's going to play it. That's not how I think at all, and I hope it never happens. But I hope to create, with my music, I hope to create a certain kind of feeling and emotion.
you for continuing on Cuerdi Colibri with our guest guitarist, Goran. And now I'd like you to share some interesting or funny stories you've experienced in your musical career, please.
Sure. I mean, there is so much joy in playing music, and there is so much joy playing in different countries for people that you have never met before. And over the years, with different projects, we've gone, so many places in Europe and United States. I even went to India, and this was a crazy experience. I was playing in a guitar duo, and we went to this guitar festival in Calcutta. This is probably 12 years ago, and I remember the guy I was playing with. He played some gigs in a different country, and we talked like a few days before. Hey, let's meet in India for this festival. So we went there, and it was a crazy experience because we've never been in a place that far east, and we've never experienced Indian culture. So the first the concert that first night of the festival we played, and we saw hundreds and hundreds of people waiting in front of the concert hall to get to listen to us. The show was like super sold out. And there were all these police people trying to protect the what was potentially a very chaotic moment,
Wow.
few hundred people without tickets trying to get to see a classical guitar concert. And we played, and it was a wonderful experience. There is so many moments like this, playing in Spain, in a Spanish jazz club, let's say the show is promoted at 8 o'clock. It doesn't start till 10. Wow. And everything is really slow, and you get there, you do the sound, you have a little food, you have a little wine.
Yeah.
You start whenever you start. People will come. Don't worry about that. Playing around the States is always a lot of fun. We go, there is a lot of culture on the East Coast, West Coast, in the Midwest, and everywhere in between. And touring in the States is kind of like touring Europe. It's still America, but like East Coast is totally different than the West Coast. So it's always nice to be able to play for other people, and I especially enjoy walking into a situation where I don't know anybody. If I play in Chicago, where I'm from, I know this guy is going to come, and these friends are going to come, and they like this song, so I better play that song. And when there is some jazz guys, I have to improvise more. I always feel like I have to satisfy everybody. Yeah. But if I don't know anybody, I just play my stuff, and I don't really care if they like it or not. Usually they do.
Okay, Goran. And this moment, please share those final tips that will enrich our guitar skills. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I think a lot of times, and I've seen that through my teaching children, teaching adults, a lot of times people don't gather enough information. What is this? What are we working on? In terms of, what is the harmony of the piece? What is the rhythm of the piece? And where does this come from? Like, all this music, it didn't just appear out of somewhere. It has, parallels to different styles of music, older music from, like we were talking, music from Egberto Gismonti has so many different influences. So when we practice a piece, it's very important to put it in smaller groups so that we can organize with the clarity in our minds what is the melody, what is the harmony, what is the counterpoint, and what is the rhythm of the piece. Like for example,
the classical.
everybody loves that, right?
Yeah.
If I ask a graduate from university, play the chords for Lagrima, they'll be like, ooh, I don't know, I have to go and study that. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. So I think it's very important to be able to sort of put yourself in a position that, imagine there is two guitar players and you have to be able to play all the parts, the harmony and the melody.
Yeah.
Once those things are in place, then of course, depending on the level of the performer, depending on the level of the student, we pay attention to legato and playing connected, playing relaxed, breathing with the music. So I suggest recording yourself, even if you're practicing simple music like Lagrima. Go ahead and record yourself with a video and audio, because then you're going to be able to look a little bit from the outside what you need to maybe focus on. So in order to achieve that, I think one should be able to play, let's say, piece like Lagrima without too much difficulty, without too much tension in the shoulders, without tension in the fingers. It should feel easy because it's a relatively easy piece. If there is a situation where things start to hurt and somehow you start feeling that if you press harder it's going to be better, no, it's always going to sound. The music's going to have a lightness to itself when the fingers and the body follows with that same kind of feeling. So if something feels difficult, it's time to stop and really think why it's difficult, and maybe go a few levels down and play just a lot of single note line melodies. If you're a person who is preparing Villa-Lobos preludes, that it's much harder. Kind of a similar thing. Record yourself, listen to that musical line, that the melody notes are connected, that there is a push and pull between. Sorry, let me switch the guitars here.
Okay.
So that there is a push and a pull between the melody and the accompaniment, right? Right? There is, there is the overall arch of the piece, and one has to be able to play with a push and pull in terms of the melody and the accompaniment in order to make it very interesting. I also think oftentimes it gets overlooked. What is the architecture of the piece, and how do we want? How do we play this second time? It shouldn't sound the same as the first one, so we have to have a little bit more of deeper emotion. And the third time. Right? So there should be a feeling of construction of the piece that's already set in the mind, and we have an idea how we want to execute that.
Yeah.
In terms of, a lot of people get stuck in, let's say, piece like Prelude Number 1. You cannot go to infinity and practice just one piece forever. So I suggest not just practicing one piece, but practicing at least 3-4 different pieces that are maybe stylistically different, and maybe you have few easy pieces as a warm-up, and then the hardest piece is placed for the last one to practice. But something that often gets overlooked is the stamina of the player. Are you actually able to play the whole piece from the beginning to the end without too much trouble, right? So a lot of times I sit down and I practice through the whole piece, and I do the best I can. It's not great every time. But I specifically want to be able to play a 6-minute piece without struggling too hard. If there is a section that I struggle with, I'm going to slow down and practice that like anybody else. Right? Until it gets into my hands. If it needs more time, I'm going to think about, what is the fingering that's going to work for me? What are some variations of practicing difficult passages? Practicing, staccato, practicing syncopated. So that one doesn't repeat the same thing over and over again. So I want to say variety is spice of life in terms of, creating a healthy amount of pieces to practice at one time, without burning out or without getting too frustrated. I think there is something to be said about, you practice one piece for a month or two and then move on. It's time to move on and practice something else, because once you've created a large history of different pieces from different eras, from different styles, something starts to click both in your mind and in your hands and in your emotion towards that kind of music. So I think, of course, we have now covered a lot of different levels, multiple levels of what can be useful for practicing. But I always think that, I think in terms of guitar and the music that I write and how I play, that it should feel light. Things should not feel heavy. When I hear a guitarist and, of course, certain things need to feel heavy in specialized, modern music. But when they play with the same sort of feeling of lightness, or if everything is feeling heavy, then I sort of have an issue with this kind of mindset for a guitar player performer. I think when we come from a feeling of lightness, both the body and the fingers and the musical sensitivities, it's just very attractive to the listener.
Perfect, Goran. And for example, what exercise or tips you recommend for the synchronization between right and left hand?
I think a lot of things that I was talking about, practicing the rhythmical side of things by itself, right? Of course, practicing separate hands until you feel comfortable, but I think playing, to get the better sync between the hands. Play anything. It can be simple exercises that you come up with. This would be more like a arpeggio chord type of exercise. I think, really being aware of, again, lightness of the left hand in particular. When the right hand needs to strum really hard, it shouldn't be the same sensation as the right hand, right? It should be light, because it's not going to sound better if I have a very heavy feeling in my left hand. It's not going to sound better. Or I do have some exercises that I show to my students. Some are exercises that I've come up with. I do. Something like this, which would be interesting exercise for switching chords. See, there's two chords, right? This would be something that I work with my students on, or diminished. Right? Something that I can use in improvisation, or it helps with syncing, that's for sure.
Yeah. In this case, what do you think, for example, what is the most important for the improvisation? It's very important, all the position on the fret in the guitar, maybe.
Absolutely, yeah. Practicing scales in different positions. We have multiple different positions. We can utilize open strings. Right? But we can also, or right? This was all C major scale, but coming from a classical perspective, a scale is this. For me, sure, it's a scale, but yeah. I'm never going to use it. So why am I practicing it this way? I can be like. So, I think, practicing scales has a lot of benefits in terms of synchronization that we talked about, but it doesn't have to start on a C, it can start. It can be different rhythms and different combination of notes. Now, in terms of improvisation, like I said, nobody's ever started improvising and they were like great from the first day on. Everybody had to work really, really hard in terms of making any kind of progress. I would say if you're new to improvisation, take take a simple song like Twinkle Little Star and maybe start creating melodies over that. You can play the melody a couple times, but then right? And that can progress over time. So, for example, why can't you record Lagrima? And come up with a part that's going to be improvised. That, like doing something that you already know the harmony and the melody is going to make the improvisation easier because you know the song, your body has taken the song in, you understand it, and that's a good beginning. After that, there is so many different ways, so many different directions you can go. Jazz, Latin American guitar. There is a lot of valuable resources and material. Guitar from the Balkans is relatively new thing, and there is a lot of people coming from that perspective. There's a lot of improvisation in Balkan guitar, Balkan folk music, so that can be also a great tool to kind of explore and see what's out there. But basically having no fear and thinking that for me and for a lot of people, when they start to improvise, it's this free thing. Right, this sort of like long intros that usually don't go anywhere, because people's ears and brains are used to the structure of things. So I suggest practicing over chords, practicing over specific chords, right? That way you have something to look forward to, but also sort of a structure that you can play off and stay in the time and play appropriate notes for the chords.
Perfect, Grant. And now, where can people find you on social networks or YouTube channel?
Absolutely. I do have a website where I publish some of the sheet music that I've written. There is right now there is only 12, 13 pieces. I have a lot more, and it's getting updated. My website is my last name first, Ivanovic, Goran.com. The YouTube channel also Goran Ivanovic.
Okay.
This is where I post a lot of videos on different guitars, my originals, and everything else. Instagram, Goran Guitar. Facebook also, I believe, is Goran Guitar. Check out my music. I have a lot of different albums. There is a new album that's came out this year, so it's solo guitar and it features all my original compositions. So if you're coming from a classical guitar background, this last album might be interesting for you.